Senator Ted Cruz makes a stop in Alice tonight as part of his re-election campaign. Our Michelle Pedraza attended this evening's event and got an exclusive interview with the senator. Michelle?
Well, Brian, tonight in Alice, Senator Ted Cruz spoke about many topics, including Planned Parenthood funding, gun rights, immigration, and the border wall. I spoke to him about the Trump administration's zero tolerance policy, and he said that everyone agrees to not separate families and that he's introduced legislation within the Senate that would prevent families from being separated. He's in the process of negotiating with Senate Democrats if they can come together on a bipartisan agreement that keeps families together and respects immigration laws. And as polls leading up to midterm elections show the race between Cruz and Democratic Congressman Beto O'Rourke fairly close, here's what Cruz had to say about his competitor.
If Congressman O'Rourke gets what he wants, if next year Democrats take control of Congress and begin impeaching the president, the next 2 years Washington will be paralyzed by partisan gridlock and warfare and a political circus, and all the good progress we've seen of low taxes, low regulations will grind to a halt. That's not good for South Texas.
We need a wall. We need to stop the illegal immigration. Everything he stands for is behind President Trump. That's what we need.
And tomorrow, Ted Cruz will be here in Corpus Christi at House of Rock at 10 a.m. before he heads out to Victoria. Beto O'Rourke was here in Corpus Christi last week as part of his campaign, and the two will face off in the November election on the 6th. Brian?
Thank you, Michelle.